How's it hanging? It's Web Studios here. Today we are going to be ranking every live-action Spider-Man suit that was released theatrically and in some shows. Have fun! This is exactly what you imagine a $30 Spider-Man suit would look like. The seams are all mismatched, which cause the webbing to be misaligned. The children's boots that are on it, I mean, they straight up look like rain boots that you would get from Walmart. Actually insane.
I do like the shades of red and blue, however, it reminds me of the comics. I like the belt, it's very similar to some of the older comics and the Spectacular Spider-Man show.
Lenses look like straight up T-strainer. They don't allow for any emotion. They don't make him look angry. He doesn't look happy. He just looks weird.
Overall, not a great suit. 1.5 out of 10. There's not too much to say about this one. It was a massive downgrade from the Raimi films, who had a genuinely fantastic homemade suit.
Put a beanie over the mask, which just looks like a weird attempt to make it look more edgy.
2 out of 10. I already talked about the 70s live action show, and this suit uses the blueprint from that one.
The pattern does line up a bit better. Even though the web shooter is a little bit too clunky, it's a neat way to differentiate the two, even though the spider looks like an ant.
The lenses are way better than the original. They're whitened out, and they're a little bit skinnier, which makes it look like a scowl, which makes him look much more angry.
Overall, it may be an iconic suit, but it's definitely not a great one. 3 out of 10. This might be the most different suit on the list because it's made by S.H.I.E.L.D. and not by Peter.
I like the flip-up lenses, it makes it look pretty cool, and the armor is alright.
This one lacks character, which is kind of the entire point of the suit, and it looks like something that the average S.H.I.E.L.D. agent would wear.
It has no personality, and it lacks the Spider-Man feel.
Overall, they could have done it way better. 4 out of 10.
Oddly enough, this costume's popularity has grown a lot since its original debut. The designers clearly had one thing in mind: make it different from the Raimi films.
In the context of the movie, it's kind of just cobbled together spandex, athletic wear, and sunglasses, and this definitely shows in the finished product.
It kind of looks like a basketball, and the texture is really crazy. Normal suits are supposed to have some texture, I think it makes them look better, but if you have it overpower the pattern, I don't think it works.
Honestly, the pattern isn't even that good. For some reason, the red parts don't connect to the lower red parts, and it leaves the suit with so much blue. I will say that the exclusion of the normal belt that you would see on a Spider-Man suit does add to the suit's slimmer look. Don't think that it makes for a better Spider-Man costume. I think that this suit heavily would have benefited from more red and less blue, as the suit just seems too blue to me.
For some reason, the lenses are these like small gold sunglasses. They're reflective, which is pretty cool, and it allows for some really cool swinging shots.
I will say that I really like the web shooters, as they have a really neat steampunk design, and it evokes a watch, which makes a lot of sense when you watch the movie, and I think it's a really cool detail.
The suit isn't great, but it's not bad. 4.5 out of 10. This suit is almost identical to the Far From Home suit, with just a few minor differences. And the giant gold spider, it completely swamps the design. It looks terrible.
I'm just so disappointed that we couldn't have gotten the suit at the end of the movie that Tom Holland wears for the entire movie.
It's a very big disappointment. 5 out of 10.
In the context of this movie, it is way cooler. Out of the context of this movie, you see a cobbled together thing of Spider-Man parts and wires.
In some of the previous movies, you see that Ned and Peter are hacking into the suit in Spider-Man Homecoming, and you see the inside of the suit a little bit, where you see the wires and the stuff that comes out in this suit.
I think it's a really neat world building technique, and I really hope that we see this in the future. I think it's unlikely, but overall I give it a 5.5 out of 10. Let me tell you, this suit would have been a whole lot higher if it didn't overstay its welcome. I think that it was great for Peter in Avengers Endgame and in Avengers Infinity War, but when it reappeared in other movies, I just think that it lost its sparkle.
It was definitely overexposed in Far From Home and No Way Home. It would have been a lot better if it did look like the comics and was red and gold, but they didn't do that.
In conclusion, this suit would have been so much better if it was short and sweet, but it wasn't. 6 out of 10.
As mentioned previously, this suit is way better than the TASM homemade suit.
It represents Peter's inexperience, but also his cockiness. It's appropriately flashy because he is doing a wrestling match.
It's a very goofy looking suit, but since the exposed eyes are there, it allows him to have a lot more emotion when he's staring down his opponents. The early 2000s look makes it look super edgy, which I think is kind of cool.
This is definitely among some of the most nostalgic superhero costumes of all time. I understand why a lot of people put it as one of their favorites.
It's not a classic suit, however, so I have a hard time putting it above a lot of the rest. 6.5 out of 10.
This suit is definitely second most integral to the movie that it's in. It shows Peter's inexperience. It shows how he eventually becomes less reliant on his high-tech homecoming suit.
With how important this suit was to the integrity of the movie, it better look good. Using welding goggles as the lenses is a very good idea, and I think it shows how Peter is using whatever he can find as he dumpster dives in the movie.
I also really like the drawn-on logo, and it looks sort of similar to the 70s logo, which I think could be a sort of homage to that, as it does sort of look like an ant.
The fingerless gloves are a nice look, and I really like the shade of blue they went with. A lot of people think it's baby blue, but it's actually Carolina blue, which I think does a good job of showing Peter's inexperience in being Spider-Man.
The water shoes are also a very nice touch. I give this suit a 7 out of 10.
This suit is basically the homecoming suit, but just red and black.
A lot of people could say that it pays respects to the original Stan Lee and Steve Ditko's design. Beyond the colors being a lot darker, I really don't see that. I also really like the fingerless gloves because they're not actually fingerless, they just have cuts throughout, which I quite enjoy.
The white undertone of the spider looks really neat in my opinion, and I think the back spider is almost perfect aside from the fact that it's not raised. This is definitely a good suit, 7.5 out of 10.
Also, not too much to say about this suit. I think that keeping the silver webbing tremendously helps make the suit look better as it breaks up the sea of darkness.
A lot of people say that the black on the suit should have been a matte black, and if it wasn't shiny, I really don't get this argument. I think that having it be shiny makes the suit look more alien. The lenses and the spider are slightly different, and the lenses make him look a little bit more angry.
A lot of people don't really like this suit. I don't really get it. I think that it's a super cool suit, super underrated, 8 out of 10. For some reason, this suit is pretty divisive. I'm not talking about the Civil War one, I'm talking about the Homecoming one specifically. As in Civil War, it was pretty much all CGI, because they were going to go with a completely different design that had raised webbing and silver lenses, and a very John Romita-esque spider, but they ended up going with this one. Ignore Civil War, as they did make some improvements, and for Homecoming, it actually was a physical suit.
This suit is a near translation of the John Romita era of Spider-Man suits. The blue is a much lighter shade, and the red is a deeper shade. The webbing is not raised, in fact it is actually kind of indented.
This suit has a really neat basketball texture throughout. It is not overpowering like the original 2001 suit, and I think that it reads as a really nice subtle overlay. I also really like the exposed web shooters. The TASM suits did do this, but I think that they look better here as they are much larger and they blend in with the suit better. The external web shooters do a good job on breaking up parts of the suit.
The best part of the suit is definitely the movable eyes. The other movie's solution for this problem was to take off the mask, destroy it, or just completely ignore it. The camera shutter-like system allows all the emotion of Spider-Man to shine through the suit.
I really only have one complaint with the suit, and that is that the suit has an abundance of lines. It has these goofy leather black lines throughout. I think that it is completely unnecessary. Maybe it was to break up the texture, because normally suits have 3D webbing, which breaks it up better, but I'm not really a fan of this addition.
The Disney Park suit definitely makes an improvement on this, but I won't be mentioning that in this list because it not made any theatrical appearances yet. Still love the Homecoming suit in its entirety. 8.5 out of 10.
First thing, I'm combining the suits from the first Raimi movie, the later two, and No Way Home. There was kind of a minimal difference, so I didn't really see a point in including all of them.
It's one of the most iconic costumes of all time. It's up there with Christopher Reeve Superman and Indiana Jones. So much of this suit has inspired further versions of Spider-Man. Heck, even the concept art inspired the Superior Spider-Man suit.
Let us know if you want to see that suit in a future video. It is difficult to even put into words how important this suit is. It's so difficult to say something about this suit that hasn't already been said by someone else, but I'll give it a shot. Believe it or not, the very first thing about this suit is the one negative. The one negative is that this suit is so awesome looking that it's unbelievable that a kid from Queens could make it. This suit is a $10,000 latex form-fitting Spider-Man suit. We're supposed to believe that Peter Parker, who couldn't afford a car and had to do wrestling, was able to make this.
The shades of red and blue they used on the suit are so perfect. They show up on camera and look fantastic. The richness of the blue contrasts with the brightness of the red brilliantly. Sometimes the red on the suit can look a bit orangey though. The large spider on the suit is definitely a difference from the comics, which seems kind of strange with how much we see a large spider nowadays on suits.
The lenses are triangular, and it makes Spider-Man look a lot more intimidating. This seems like the kind of guy that would beat the crap out of you if you got on his bad side.
The most iconic part of this suit was actually an accident. The silver raised webbing wasn't actually supposed to be in the movie. They added this because the black lines on the webbing couldn't show up with the camera technology they were using. The solution for that was, well, to make it silver. And man, let me tell you, it looks great.
Overall, it's exceptional. 9 out of 10.
After the first TASM suit was not so well received, they knew a change was needed. You might be surprised at this costume's placement because a lot of people would put this as their #1 favorite Spider-Man suit.
This suit implements more vibrant colors than its predecessor, and it gets rid of the puffy paint basketball extravaganza that its previous suit had. Replaces it with a screen-printed hexagonal pattern throughout the entire costume. It is far more subtle, but it is still noticeable, and I think it looks awesome.
All the webbing is substituted for a glossy black, which resembles the Raimi films. The web shooters are sleek, small, and high-tech. In the movie, they're designed by Gwen, so it fits with their themes in the movies.
The spider is no longer segmented and is now more closely resembling the Raimi version. The colors are much better, and the suit now features big white bug eyes that closely resemble the original Ultimate lenses. Andrew Garfield wears a face shield that makes him look more youthful in this movie, which fits his taller, lanky build.
In the movie, the suit is shown to have detachable gloves, boots, and mask. This doesn't really coincide with how the suit is when he's swinging because you can clearly see that the suit is one piece.
At some points in the movie, the eyes are really glossy looking, and I think it's super neat when it reflects Electro's lightning. Overall, the suit is really good, so what could possibly be better? 9.5 out of 10. I wasn't even going to include this suit because it is an entirely CGI creation in the movie. But a lot of people would have been saying that I forgot it, and I really like the suit, as you can tell by its position.
Firstly, they keep what's so great about all the other MCU suits, which is the movable lenses. This suit has movable lenses from what we can tell, but it's pretty unlikely that it's going to have a HUD on the inside.
Oddly enough, this suit does exclude the visible web shooters. I'm not entirely sure how they're going to explain that in the movie. The spider is also a vast improvement from the other MCU movies. Those went for a too techy design that sort of looked like an oversimplified logo. This new spider is larger and has more angular and sharp edges, which clearly take inspiration from Tobey and Andrew's designs.
The most notable difference about this suit is the blue. The blue is shiny in this suit, which is kind of weird because it hasn't appeared in any other suits. It's not quite as light as Homecoming, and it's not quite as dark as Civil War. I also like how they didn't give him the black stripes along the shoulders, arms, and legs.
The webbing is also more spaced out on the suit. I can't tell if it's 3D, I don't think it is, but it might be. Spaced out webbing does a really good job on replacing the goofy black lines, as it definitely segments the red better, and it is very similar to the Romita era of Spidey costumes, which had a lot more spaced out webbing than the original Steve Ditko and Stan Lee era. I also don't think that it needed any blue cuts or black cuts or red cuts. I think that it looks really nice with everything being super duper classic. I don't quite like the back spider as much as it's basically just the front spider but red.
They should have used something more akin to the Homecoming back spider, as I think it does a better job of representing Spider-Man. To be honest, I don't think we've seen any official images of the back spider, so take everything I've said with a grain of salt.
Overall, we have no quarrel calling this our favorite Spider-Man suit of all time.
Don't forget to like and subscribe, check out our description for Instagram, Patreon, and Discord, and remember, with great power comes great responsibility. Have a nice day.
You have limited storage space.
Okay.
Come on. Of all time.